Okay, kids, today's video or presentation is on how to get your spreadsheet budget set up for the World Travel Agency activity. So from your home screen, we're going to open Excel. And using Excel, we're going to create the columns and column titles and everything you're going to need to start inputting some of the information that you have found about your vacation. So all I did is just opened a simple spreadsheet, and now we're going to start setting up the table. And the first thing we're going to do in A1 is we're going to put our title, and so this is my sample on Bonaire that goes along with my presentation. So I'm going to type Bonaire on a budget into A1. Okay, and then I'm going to hit enter, and that finishes off that cell. And in row 2, we're going to go to cell B2, and we're going to type in our first budget amount. We're going to put in a budget 1. Actually, the budget amount instead of that. We're going to put in $235. And then we're going to press the tab key so that gets us to our next column. Then we're going to put in 310 and press tab, and then 410. These are the average daily amounts that you get to use for each budgeted trip, and that's that amount times 8, and that will give you your total for the entire trip. And then B3, we're going to start with the names for our packages. So this is my example, dive and drive. And if you notice, that runs over into C, and now we're going to cover up with the second one, which was the blow dry, and we just covered it up. We didn't delete any of it. And then the final one is the Rockstar, and this is our most expensive trip package that we have. And if you notice, these things are covered up, but we're going to fix it right here. And so this title in A1, we want it to be centered over all 4 columns. So we're going to click and hold in the middle of A1, and we're going to drag over to D1, and that selects A, B, C, and D. And then up in your ribbon at the top, we're going to go to right over here to merge and center, and it's going to merge all this. All this is now A1. All right, and now we want to be able to see this here, but instead of making the column wider yet, what we're going to do is we're going to stack those on top of each other. So we're going to go to B3, and then up here where right above merge and center it says wrap text, and now it will wrap that text in those cells. Okay, so now we want to go to A4, and we're going to start putting in the different things we're going to have to pay for on this trip. So we have hotel, and enter, and then we have airfare, and you can change that to flight if you'd like. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's just change this to flight, and then enter, and then food, and these are the things that we're going to start with. And then we have our different activities. So in Bonaire, I'm going to go scuba diving, and I'm going to go on a fishing trip because I love to go fishing, and then I'm going to do some windsurfing. And again, you can see this runs over into B, but we're going to fix that. And there's parasailing, kiteboarding, I can't spell today, and then a marine park tag. And so we're just going to enter all these different activities that you could do while you're at your destination. And then the donkey sanctuary. Let's fix this. And then we're also going to need a rental truck while we're there. And then now we're ready to get our totals. And so we're going to have our total spent and 16. So this is a total amount spent on the entire trip. And line 17 is our total amount that we have budgeted, which is going to be the amount per day times the number of days we're going to be gone, which is 8. And then this last one is going to be over / under, and that's the budget. So now we're going to fix this so these don't run over. And so to make sure this column is wide enough, we're going to come up to the column headings up here at the top, go to this line between A and B, and you notice how the cursor changes. We're just going to double click right there, and that resized all of column A so you can read all those. All right. Now we're going to make it a little bit nicer, and we're going to put grid boxes around all this. So you're just going to go up to A1, go to the middle of A1, click and hold, and drag down to select everything that we have here. And then up here in the font grouping box, right here, you can see the grid line options. You click the down arrow and go to all borders. And so now our entire budget has borders around every cell. Now to add something different, we're going to come up here to F1, and we're going to type in days on trip. And we're going to press tab to go over to G1, and we're going to type in 8 because this trip is going to be 8 days long, start to finish. Let's go ahead and resize column F so we can read all of it. And so days on trip is equal to 8. So now we want to start putting in some formulas. We're going to start with this total budgeted amount. Our total budget amount is the number of days on the trip times our daily average that we're going to spend. And so we're going to click in 17B. We're going to type the equal sign. And then we want to come up here to B2, click on it. So now this cell is going to be equal to B2 times, which is the asterisk. And then we want to times this cell right here. And now we want to lock this G1 in as an absolute multiplier. So it will always multiply back by this cell. And so we're going to use the F4 function key, and it changes that to this $G $1, and it makes that an absolute value. And now we can press enter. And so you see it takes the 235 times 8 and gives you the 1800 that you have to budget out for the whole trip. Now the total spent is going to be the hotel, food, all these activities added together all the way down through the rental truck. So we can do this a couple ways. Is we can click equal, and then we can click on this, plus, and do that whole line of things. But instead of doing that, we're going to do it the quick and easy way. Is once you select B16, you're going to come up here to your ribbon and go to auto sum, and we're going to click on it, and it highlights what it thinks you want to add together. And we don't want these two cells at the top. We just want to start from B4. So we're going to select the range B4, click and hold, drag down to B15, and press enter. And so now that says enter because it's going to, or 0 because it's going to add everything from hotel down to rental truck, and there's nothing there yet. And so now our over under on the budget is going to be equal to the budget amount minus the total spent. So we're going to click into B18, type equal, click on our budgeted amount of 1880. We don't want to type it on. We want to take whatever's in this cell and then subtract whatever's in B16, which right now is 0. And so now when we press enter, it says we have 1880 left to budget for this trip. We want to go ahead and copy these these formulas over to these other 6 cells. So we're going to go to B16 and click and hold in the middle of it and drag down. So now we have these 3 cells selected that have formulas in it. Go to this copy fill handle, this little green box right here, and as the cursor changes, you're going to click and drag over, and that copies those formulas over. So now it takes 310 times 8, 410 times 8, and pulls it over. And by doing this, now when we find out what our flight price is, we can go ahead and type this in at 800. And as we hit enter, it does the math, it adds it up, it subtracts it out, and so you see how much more money you have to budget for each trip. So if we're just going to use this same flight price for all of them, we can click back on the flight price, go to the fill handle, and drag it to the right, and it fills that in. And so now you can see how much money you have left to budget for each trip. So as you continue finding things out about your trip, go ahead and enter those prices. It'll calculate it for you and let you know where you're at. So today, if you have extra time, this is what you should be working on after you finish your Flipgrid. And we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.